Okay. We on whatever you want. Okay. So let's switch gears a bit. And there is a post, a viral post from a woman on Twitter who said that she put in 33 applications in 2 months, 2 interviews out of those 33. I don't want to hear anyone say nobody wants to work. These companies won't hire. Okay. And so the response, someone responded to her and said, T is a lot of them are not hiring. It's called ghost jobs. And apparently they post jobs to make it seem like the job market / their industry is thriving when it's actually not. Okay, so there are a couple things that I want to break down regarding this subject. First, I'm just going to break down ghost jobs from a recruiter's perspective, from an HR perspective. Now, we live in a generation where everyone, we have to name things. Everything has to have a nickname or an acronym, or, we have to bring things to the intersection of our generation and call it something. Ghost jobs, if that's what we're going to call it, I'm going to call it ghost jobs because that's the new name for, what has always been. It's not that ghost jobs, that these are just invisible jobs that companies don't intend to fill. What we have to understand, and I'm sharing this perspective with you guys because I want you to learn how to think like a business. Your labor is a market. I say this all the time. You sell your labor. Your labor is a business. And when you sit at these tables, you're negotiating a salary, benefits, terms, conditions. You're selling your labor. And in order to do so effectively, and in order to negotiate and navigate this market effectively, you need to understand the corporate side. From a corporate perspective, from a company perspective, I'm not going to sit here and say I can speak for every company, okay? There are companies out here who act unethically. There are companies out here who do things to impress their shareholders, impress their stakeholders, who want to give the illusion of performance or growth because they have people that are investing in their business and they don't want those people to take their money out of that business. So I'm not going to say that there aren't companies that are acting unethically or unscrupulously, but I'm going to say that historically, companies have posted positions that they were not actively recruiting for at the moment. Because in order for a recruiter to be a good recruiter, in order for a talent acquisition manager to be a good talent acquisition manager, they have to have a pipeline. And one of the reasons why we're seeing positions that are called ghost jobs occurring more frequently is because the pattern that new employment has taken in the market. So in the beginning of this video, I talked about many of us saw people get a job, stay at that job for 30 years or stay at that job for 25 years until they retired or until they were vested or, until they got disabled or whatever. They were forced out of the position. They didn't leave willingly. Well, this new market is going to leave a job every time they feel like they can get a better offer, a better situation. Okay, I make $100K over here, but this company will pay me $105 and I can work remote. Well, I make $100 over here. This company will pay me $95, but they'll pay for my relocation and I can work hybrid. So you have people that are staying at companies for shorter periods of time. And as a talent acquisition manager or a human resource manager, depending on how big the company is, you even have talent analysts. They are looking at this data. So every quarter, they're looking at data. They're looking at current data and they're looking at historical data. This data is helping them predict how frequently this position is going to turn over. Now, some of the turnover is happening because budget cuts. Some of the turnover is happening because people are leaving. Some of the turnover is happening because of just natural life events. Someone had a baby. Someone's on a disability or medical leave. And then some of the data is coming from anticipated growth. So you may have a situation where, and the pandemic was an excellent example where, okay, there is something that is happening socially or politically that is making business go. And so we're staffing up to meet this need. And the projection or the prediction is that this period of growth if we use this data, we're going to factor it into future growth. And when that future growth doesn't happen, now, positions are being taken. So in order for talent acquisition managers to be effective at their job, they have to come up with some type of figure that represents the turnover. In some industries, like it's called churn, not related to labor, but just for people who are in that type of business. So we have to have a plan for anticipated turnover. Usually these positions will be given a score, and sometimes companies will call it an incumbency period. Okay, people are staying in this role for 6 to 9 months. People are staying in this role for a year. I can expect that there will be a vacancy in this position every 3 to 6 months, every 3 to 9 months. So what I'm going to do is continue to recruit for this role, because in 3 to 9 months, something is going to happen. Someone is going to get sick and have to leave work, COVID. Someone is going to have a baby and have to leave work, maternity leave. Somebody is going to take a mental health leave and be on short-term or long-term disability. Somebody's going to get fired because they don't know how to act or because they're not consistently coming in. Someone is going to leave because they're going to get a better offer. And so companies are posting positions to build their talent pipeline, because the last thing you want, it's a formality, 2-week notice. A 2-week notice is not enough time to train, onboard, background check references, and get somebody in that seat at the capacity required to do the work that a seasoned professional was doing before they left. Once you've been in a role for 6 months to a year, I can hire someone to replace you, but they're not going to have the same understanding of the business, the same understanding of the ethics, the same understanding of the morals, the same understanding of the performance, what the customer wants, how the system works, how the workflow works. So they'll be here, they'll be training, but they won't actually be making us money or solving a problem. They'll be training to solve a problem. So companies are trying to stay ahead of that. They're posting positions to build their talent pipeline. And again, some companies are acting unethically. Some companies are trying to create false illusions. But from my experience, overwhelmingly, companies are building their talent pipeline. Another thing you have to understand is that if you are a job seeker who is seeking employment as an unemployed person, someone said, I get it, but it's definitely wasting folks' time and not our problem to solve. Okay, so if this information is not helpful for you, you are more than welcome to leave. It's not wasting folks' time, because everybody's job seeking situation is not the same. So if you're the type of person that looks for employment when you're unemployed, then that's your problem to solve. And so the people that are inconvenienced by this are people who were not a part of companies' talent pipelines. So we have a poor habit of applying for things when we need them. The same way companies are getting people in their talent pipeline, you should be putting yourself in companies' talent pipelines 6 to 9 months before you're ready to make a move. And so your lack of unpreparedness is causing you to be inconvenienced by organizations that are planning for their churn, planning for their turnover. You're not planning for your turnover, and that's why you're experiencing the fallout of being an unprepared candidate. You don't get to negotiate the same offers because you often have to take the first offer out of desperation, and you're afraid to give pushback, or you're afraid to ask for additional salary or additional benefits because you about to get put out and them people about to come take your car if you don't take this job. So if this information is not helpful for you and you want to continue to operate from a place of inefficiency, then that's on you. But for the people who want to navigate this market and get the most out of it, please continue listening. I've preached from the beginning that it is important for you to court the companies that you want to work at. And that's why we rolled out the detailed coaching reports, and that's why we put a really big push for career coaching, because you should have a title, and it could be several titles, several industries that here. This is my dream job. I could get more experience if I did this. I'm willing to work in this area. You should have your eyes on titles, companies, and salaries. And you shouldn't be making these determinations when you're out of a job, when you're almost out of a job. Now, I'm seeing a lot of people coming from Google, okay? Man, I was laid off. Listen, when the first tech company started laying off, you should have started getting yourself into these companies' talent pipelines before they started laying off. There were indicators. There were indicators that this was happening and people got comfortable and they didn't move. So the point that I'm trying to make is that if companies are saying that every 6 to 9 months moves are happening, you need to take the same assessment. You need to look at how many jobs you've had in the last 5 years. And you need to determine at what point you started feeling like you were about to leave. And you need to come up with a turnover number for yourself. Every how many months do you start feeling like this ain't gonna work out? It's not enough money for what they're asking me to do. There's better opportunities. And you should be following that pipeline. You should not be applying for positions when you're out of a job. You don't get the same opportunities and you can't make the same amount of money when you're negotiating from desperation. I'm a recruiter at a big corporation, and these are valid points. Unfortunately, being in a big company myself and peers are still just a number no matter how much we outshine basic requirements. I mean, this is just life. Someone said I need to post this in Sunday service because that was a word. Thank you. So if our job anniversary usually includes a raise, we should be applying 6 to 9 months before to make them complete. I would say that if you start a job, I'm going to be honest with you, I would never stop applying for jobs. I would never stop applying for jobs until I was in my dream position. And even then, I would still court other companies and go on interviews. And this is coming from someone, I had like 21 jobs before I was 20 because, this is a market. Now, to Megan Cita's point, you said being in a big company myself and peers are still just a number no matter how much we outshine basic requirements. Here's the thing. Part of the formula for landing employment is a numbers game. And that is why I say you should be getting every opportunity that you have to get into a company's talent pipeline. You should, because really applying for a job, when people apply for a job and they don't get the job, they feel like it was a lost opportunity or it was a lost cause. Applying for jobs is not just about getting a job. It's also about getting contact information. Okay, so one of the best return on investments for your time applying at a company and interviewing with someone, of course, is an offer and employment. But there are other very valuable opportunities that you get. So number one, you get to meet the recruiter. You get their phone number. You get their email address. Number two, you get to meet the hiring manager. You get to meet members on the team. And that's when you should be, okay, if I had an interview with the recruiter on Monday, a phone interview with the recruiter on Monday, I'm already looking this person up on LinkedIn and I've added them and let them know, oh, okay, I found your profile on LinkedIn. I noticed that we have the same alma mater or whatever, finding something that is, not stalkerish, but something relatable to build that connection. I sent you a request on LinkedIn, and doing the same thing with the hiring manager. If I interview with the hiring manager on Tuesday, as soon as I leave that interview, I'm pulling out my phone and I'm connecting with them while it's fresh in their brain, because a lot of this recruiting is about relationships. So when old girl says it's still just a number no matter how much we outshine basic requirements. Okay, part of that is true. It is a number, but when you get to make contact with the person, you get to build up your network. You get to build up your Rolodex of contacts. And so if you constantly see, okay, I didn't get this position, but another position is posted with the same recruiter or a similar position. When you were at the interview, you learned that this department works with this department. So it's the same recruiter, or it's the same hiring manager. Now I've interviewed with this hiring manager before. Maybe I didn't make the cut, but we've stayed in touch on LinkedIn. And now I'm reaching out to the hiring manager directly saying, hey, I noticed that you had this position, yada, yada, yada. I don't know if you remember me, but back in May, I interviewed for XYZ position, whoop-de-doop-de-doop. And so you're building these relationships, because what you want to do is work against the uncontrollable. You can't control how many people apply for this position. You cannot control what the candidate pool is going to look like. What you can control is, hey, am I applying for positions that I'm realistically qualified for? Does my resume demonstrate that I have the competencies, experience, and skills to meet the needs of this requisition? Am I performing my best at the interview? And am I taking the opportunity to build relationships where I'm meeting people at? Okay. So someone said, but what if you found the perfect job and didn't want to leave and now you're being told they're laying you off? Should I still have been applying? Yes. And that's why I say you should always be applying, because this is a market. Markets are not stable. The US dollar is not worth what it was worth 20 years ago today. $20 doesn't get you the same that you could get 20 years ago with $20. And it's not just because of inflation. What drives inflation? What changes is stability. A job is not stable. Nothing is stable. So you should always be courting and interviewing and connecting and learning about new companies and learning who the power players are. I will tell you something. You can go so far. And this is something that I'm going to be offering soon with my white glove. You can go with my white glove product line, because contrary to the hater in the comments from earlier, the white glove is its own business. I cross promoted on here because some of my clients are not going to get the best experience based off of the More for Less Resumes model. And I want to identify those clients and make sure that I educate them on the product that will help them. So one of the things that I am going to start offering, I'm going to start offering press, because there are so many news outlets and media outlets. You see these people that are getting $200,000, $300,000 salaries. It's because somebody read about them. Somebody heard about them. You can get your name out here bigger than just applying for positions. And I'm going to start talking about that. I'm working on, one step at a time. So that's the first point of this ghost job situation. A lot of the times it is not a company acting unscrupulous or acting unethically. They are adjusting their strategy to the employment market patterns, and you need to adjust your strategy as well. Now, the next thing I noticed is that the candidate said she did 33 applications in 2 months, 2 interviews out of those 33. Okay. And I'm not shaming anyone. This is advice. So if we say 2 months, there are 8 weeks. Okay. So she was applying, if we really break it down, she was applying to 4 jobs a week. Okay. That's not a lot of jobs. It sounds, I applied for 33 jobs over 2 months. I just want to tell you that that's 4 jobs a week. That's not even a job a day. You didn't even apply to 1 job a day. 33 jobs. And I'm going to tell you, in business, you learn about something called conversion ratios. Okay. A good conversion ratio is 2%. Okay. That's not even 1 interview. She got 2. That is consistent with real life conversions. 10% of 33 is 3.3. Your average conversion is, a good conversion is 2%. Her conversion was 10%. That is high. That's a healthy conversion. Another thing I wanted to say is that she got 2 interviews. So her conversion was 10%, which is a healthy conversion in business. Like I said, 2% is a healthy conversion. Her conversion was outstanding. She got 2 interviews off of her 33 applications. The companies that she got those 2 interviews for, she should have researched who their competitors were and who the people they do business with. She should have bookmarked those titles and pinpointed her search. If I did 33 applications, because some of this is just research. It's testing a theory. It's testing a hypothesis. So you put your resume out 33 times. Over the course of 8 weeks, you applied for 1 job a day, 4 days out of a week. Okay. Over 2 months. And that was your case study. And the feedback that you got was that you got 2 interviews. So that lets you know that your resume performed well on those 2 job titles at those 2 companies in those 2 industries. Now you can go back and refine your search. So if with just blanketly applying for positions, you got a 10% conversion, what do you think your conversion ratio would have been if you took that raw data and refined? Okay, so I got an interview in healthcare and I got an interview in biotech, and one position was for an onboarding coordinator and another position was for a project coordinator. Okay, well, I'm going to narrow down my search and I'm going to look for every project coordinator and every onboarding coordinator position. I'm going to look at who this company does business with, who is their customer, who is their vendor, who owns them, what systems do they use. And I'm going to make a list of all those companies and I'm going to Google every variation of this title. Okay, so an onboarding coordinator can also be called an onboarding associate, onboarding specialist. Onboarding manager might be aggressive, but I'm going to add it to my list too. Okay. Project coordinator, project associate, project specialist, project manager may be a little bit aggressive, but I'm going to add it to my list. Now you got about 8 different titles. You should have about 16 to 24 different companies that are on your list. And this is my strategy. This is my strategy. This is my list. I'm not looking for a job. I look for jobs for you guys. This is my list. Now you got a list of different companies. Now you got a list of different titles. I have lists of titles for different industries for the types of transitions that my clients want to make. This is how you find the jobs. And so now, if you do 33 jobs and your first conversion was 2 interviews, the second time you come around, you should get 5 interviews. And you take that data, what worked, what didn't work. And if you're consistently getting interviews and not closing the deal, now you know that it's not the resume. It's not that you're unemployable. It's that your resume wasn't matched with the right positions in the right industries at the right salary point at the right entry level. And your interview wasn't good. So again, I'm not saying that this idea of ghost jobs is not real. I'm saying that overwhelmingly, I don't think that most companies are acting unethically. I think that companies are shifting their approach. We are in a job hopper employment market. People will leave a company in a minute. There is no loyalty there. Another company will raise their pay $2, $3 to take your talent if they need it. And so companies are adjusting their strategy. They are posting positions that may not have an immediate need. And I've said this, I've been saying this since 2019. You need to look at how long the position has been posted. And sometimes companies are going to recruit until they find the right person. So overwhelmingly, you need to adjust your strategy. Stop waiting until you're unemployed to put yourself out there. You need to be continuously learning about new companies, learning about emerging titles, making a list of companies that interest you, making a list of job titles that you know you're qualified for. And every time you see a position that aligns with your salary goal, your career direction, your career goal, apply for it. And this is really where career coaching comes in, because, you know, it's okay to book a career coaching call for future need. Hey, I love my job right now. I'm making X amount of money right now, but in the next 2 years, my goal is to get here. How can I get from where I am now to here? Well, if you could get some experience doing this, if you could get this certification, if you could break into this industry, here are some titles, here are some companies. And when you see those opportunities, apply. That's how you get the best salary. That's how you negotiate the best offers, and that's how you avoid trapping yourself into positions that are lateral. And a lateral move is when you just move across the board, and that typically happens when you're ready to fire your employer or your employer is ready to fire you. Companies are moving strategically because they understand that they are a business. They understand what their key data insights are telling them. As an employer, if you only operate at the liberty of the employer, then you're not looking at what the key data insights are telling you. You're not looking at what the data and the market trends and market conditions are telling you. And so you're being taken advantage of. You're getting the short end of the stick Move methodically and strategically, and I'm telling you, your experience will be better. And also understand, part of it is uncontrollable. Part of it is a numbers game. Some of these positions are going to be filled internally. You have companies that have hundreds of employees where they're posting this position. A lot of those positions are going to be filled internally. A lot of those positions are going to be filled through nepotism. A lot of those positions are going to be filled through favors. A lot of those positions are going to see the budget get cut. A lot of those positions are going to see technology come in and solve a problem that they thought they needed manual labor to do. There are so many factors contributing. Some of these positions, hey, we wanted someone to start in March, but the project didn't finish as fast as we thought it was, so now it's not going to be until May. You literally have 500, 600, 700 people applying for one job. Is it realistic for a recruiter to go back and reach out to every single person? Sometimes priorities shift. You have a situation where this position was really important, but then something broke over here, and we have to direct resources over here to solve this problem, because if this problem isn't solved, then this job won't exist. If this problem isn't solved, the whole company won't exist. So there are things that are happening, and it can come off as like, oh, they're just posting fake positions. And again, I'm not saying that there aren't some companies that are unscrupulous or unethical that aren't doing that, but I'm saying overwhelmingly, I don't think that's the case. Does anybody have any questions related to this topic? Someone said, is the service of reviewing and fixing resumes still open? I'm finishing grad school and looking for help. Absolutely. If you want to send us a DM, we can go over what your situation is and what the best options would be for you based on your situation. All right, let's get to the questions. Did I miss some questions? Okay. I didn't see LinkedIn revamp on your menu. Is it not currently being offered? Okay, so right now it's only being offered for white glove clients, but I do have a waiting list because I'm the only person who knows how to do LinkedIn's. So I am trying to train somebody else on it. So right now it's kind of like a waiting list. So I'm doing the white gloves by priority, and then when I have a spot, I'll reach out and to whoever's on the waiting list. What is a sufficient amount of applications I should be applying for weekly being unemployed from being a stay-at-home mom this past year? I've used your service already and have a resume. If it was me, I would be applying for like at least 20 jobs a week. If you're, and this kind of depends on how targeted your resume is. If you're in like a general, because like you have like operations. If you're in operations, you could do 20 positions a week. If you're in something very niche, and maybe a lot less, but generally speaking, I would say about 20. I would say about 20 a week. I personally don't see the ghost jobs. Some recruiters are slow. Some are hiring for 30 plus roles at once. Some are expired. Megan Cedar, I'm with you on that one. And I study these markets, and I have certain companies where I've just mastered their strategy. I know how to get my resumes through their system. I know how to get my clients an interview there. Some companies, I would go so far as to say I can guarantee you'll get hired if you do everything I tell you to do. I don't advertise that because I think it's unethical, and it's always a chance that it might not happen that way. But I'm studying companies. I have companies on my watch list. I have companies that I really study, and I've broken their recruiting strategy down to a science. And I'm always looking for new companies and scoping new companies. And I haven't seen ghost jobs. I have seen things move slow. We are still coming, it's the beginning of the year. Budgets are still being set. Consumers are still not consumering the way that they do during prime time. So, it's just after Christmas. People are still recovering financially from Christmas. We've been hit with inflation. A lot of people have taken time off of work and they're doing holiday and vacation, or people, even though we're at the end of January, now it's tax time. Tax time stimulates the economy. Consumers start buying, which means businesses start buying. Jobs start heating up again. So, it's really not hiring season until February, March is when hiring season really kicks off. So I'm not seeing that either. But I don't want to say that it's not happening, because where there's smoke, there's fire. I think overwhelmingly people are not understanding how to strategize and prepare. And a lot of people are, not really thinking about looking for new employment until they need it. And so it's not happening as fast. I can go on my phone and get tissue delivered to my house. I can go on the internet and get something delivered to me within 2 days. And with a job, it can take, from the time you apply, I've seen people go from application to hired 6 months because it took time for them to hear back. And then when they did hear back, there was this whole list of interviews, then round 2 of interviews. So, I'm not saying that personally. Thanks. I'm going to spend the weekend scrolling through every company that I offered or interview for. You should. Let me know how that works. After some time ago, I realized the job market is crazy and encouraged my husband to get his certification. After that, I'm sending him to you. I look forward to working with him. You're going to do about 30 a week. Okay. Make sure you're tracking. Make an email address where you're tracking the title, and copy and pasting the job description, because when a client tells me I've applied for 50 jobs and I haven't gotten any interviews, it's hard to assess that without being able to see the resume, see the company, see the position. And it even helps to have, how soon after did they reject you? All of these things are troubleshooting factors that can help, really troubleshoot what's going on with you. When you say look at the date a job is posted, I personally think that if you're desperate for a job, I wouldn't apply for a job that's been posted more than 30 days. Now, if you want to just get in their pipeline, you want to get on their radar, because it's almost like the lottery. It's like I want a human. The key to the game is getting your resume seen by a human, getting to talk to a human, getting through the technology. So, there are different strategies for different outcomes. If you see a company and you really want to increase your chances of getting to a human and getting put into their talent pipeline, because let me tell you something about talent pipelines. Sometimes recruiters take their talent pipelines with them. If you have a really cold recruiter that's really good at what they do, they're really good at getting positions filled and all of that, it's because they built their pipeline, and they will take a pipeline from one company to another. So, positions that have been posted later, I don't think you should not apply. I think you should still apply for those positions, but just put them in a separate list. Positions with older requisitions, networking, marketing, trying to get into a pipeline, you should have an approach that's mixed. Please help me, Joe Smith. Send us a DM. If they are in AZ, send them my way. Megan Cedar, you can reach out to me, because I send recruiters referrals all the time with my client's permission. Of course, I don't just do it without their permission. I'm going into human services. What do you think about that job market as far as hiring? I think that human services is a very safe, steady market, but it's human services, so the process is slow. It's a slow process because there's a lot of bureaucratic red tape. Most human services companies are going to be, government funded or nonprofit, or it's just a big process of getting the budget approved, getting the person vetted, getting the person hired. So human services is safe. People get burnt out from the field a lot, so there's always opportunities opening. But it's not, always a fast process just because of the nature of human services in the sensitive populations that you have to serve. How do employers view entrepreneurs when they apply for jobs? You know, different employers view entrepreneurs differently. If the position doesn't say that they want you to have an entrepreneurial spirit, then I wouldn't market myself as an entrepreneur. There are different ways you can market experience that you've had as self-employment. It doesn't have to be that you were the entrepreneur. When you say look at the date a job is posted, what should be the dates we should be looking for? I think I answered this already. Less than 30 days. Unless you're just trying to build your network and get into that talent pipeline. And, you know, so if you're a person who already has a job, you like your job, you're just applying because things change, then you should definitely be applying to all positions, because your strategy is different. You're networking, you're building relationships, you want to practice interviewing. You know, interview questions change, terminology changes, verbiage changes. Maybe you just want to stay abreast. So in those situations, apply to all of them. If you're actively seeking and you really don't have time for the relationship building, they're about to take your car, you are about to lose your house, then I would avoid positions that have been up longer than 30 days. What package would you suggest for a student who has 7+ years of work experience? Any of our packages could work. It just depends on really the salary goal and how complex the transition is. So if you want to send me a DM, I'll answer some DMs when I get off of here. Yeah, you do want to be one of the first to apply. You know, you want to apply early, because eventually, the reason why you want to apply early is because towards the end, I'm not looking at 700 resumes. I ain't gonna do it, you know. I don't know too many people that are either, even if you're only looking at them for 5 seconds, like, get somebody else to do it. So, you know, if you're one of the first people to apply and you make it through the system, it's just a higher likelihood that your resume will actually be considered and viewed by a human. Once you start to get out 30, 60 days, a lot of people have applied. The position may have already been filled and they didn't take it down yet. There may be something administratively slowing up the process. Maybe a candidate was given an offer and that person, because another thing is too, companies will sometimes leave a position open until the person has stayed past that 90-day probationary period. So, you know, there's just so many scenarios. But I would say if you're looking for immediate hire, you may want to avoid those positions that have been posted longer than 30 days. My company has a 4-week hire ahead. That gives time for the pre-employment process. That means we will post a role 2 months prior to the start date. So, and what she's saying is that, you know, if a position is going to start March 4th, they're going to post it January 4th. But, you know, you have to consider that if the position was posted January 4th and you get to it February 15th, you have to consider how many people have applied and interviewed for that position. So, you know, everybody's strategy is going to be different, because you have to build a strategy based off your objective and your situation. If you're one of those person who desperately needs employment so that you don't lose your home or you don't lose your kids so you can eat, stuff like that, you know, you may not have time to go through the rigmarole, because companies will continue to interview people even though they know who they want to hire. So you just may not want to waste your time in that way. But again, for those people who are like, listen, I have a job, but I'm not married to this job, so I'm going to keep looking, I would say go ahead, give it a shot, because you may reach a human. You may get added to a pile where, you know, they may reach out to you later when a similar opportunity opens up. What are your thoughts on the compliance market? The compliance market is growing. There are a lot of positions based on compliance. Some of them are in tech, some of them are in cybersecurity, some of them are in governance. Some of them are for the government. Some of them are contracts, policies. Compliance is growing. I'm seeing a lot of positions in compliance. Been following you for a couple of months, currently in the banking industry, trying to pivot into tech. Love your posts. Well, thank you for following me. If you're in the banking industry, you are closer to tech than you think. I would highly recommend fintech, and it doesn't just have to be for a tech company. Remember, Capital One is fintech, American Express is fintech. There are tech opportunities within the banking field, so just keep that in mind as you search. If you're coming back to the job market after health issues, how do you go about framing that to employers? If it were me, I will put that on my resume, but as experience. If I had to nurse myself back to health after being out of work because I was ill, and I was out of work, unable to work, and now I'm able to work again, I was a revitalization coach. I developed strategies for revitalizing optimal health. Yeah, no, I'm putting that on my resume. Someone said that's why I set up notifications for the jobs I want. Her name is Fashion. I agree with that. I do agree with subscribing to job alerts so that you could be one of the first people. And that is high level thinking. That's high level planning, so like I said, earlier in this post, and I've been preaching this for a very long time. It is so important that you know the companies you want to work for, the titles that you want to work for. Because what happens is so many people get put into a position where, oh man, I need a job, and it just happened out of nowhere. You weren't prepared for it because you put so much faith in the stability of this company. And sorry, I got an Apple News alert and it was some crazy stuff. But anyway, you put all this faith and trust in the company. The company is preparing for the direction they're growing in, but you're not preparing for the direction you're growing in. So when you do have to look for a position, you're just shooting into a black hole. You're not aiming at anything. You don't have a target. You don't know what you're qualified to do, what you're qualified to make. If you do know what you're qualified to do and what you're qualified to make, you don't know in what industries, you don't know what companies, you don't know the patterns of, these companies. If you study a couple companies and you watch their job board, you can almost predict when they're going to be hiring and what they're going to be hiring for if you get good at it. Girl, I just love you. You've created so many opportunities. Thank you, amazing blessings. I love you too. What about customer success management? Customer success management, I'm not seeing a shortage of opportunities there. But there is high turnover because a lot of those positions have really aggressive performance indicators and performance metrics. But I do think that it's a great opportunity. I think that most people can stay in that position for a year. And if you get a title like customer success manager on your resume, especially for a company that is providing a solution to businesses, so automations, integrations, anything that streamlines processes, you can shop that experience around after your year. It may be a very stressful year, but the return on investment is good. Customer success managers that I get as clients, I'm able to position them for less stressful positions, but that customer success manager title and the experience that you get, especially for people who are trying to break into tech or who've never worked at software as a service or who have never worked business to business, it's really great experience, but the turnover is high. And just because turnover is high doesn't mean the experience isn't exceptional, and it's not going to get you where you need to be. Turnover sometimes is high because the incumbency period just isn't long. You learn the job in 3 months, you do it for 9, you solve the problem. Someone else comes in with more stamina because it's grueling. It's a difficult process, but what you get from some of those titles is worth the stress, in my opinion, depending on how old you are, what your situation is, what your responsibilities are outside of work. Sometimes a position with high turnover is just paying your dues. Don't offer resume services for federal jobs anymore. If you don't have an extensive job history, are you able to help me? Yes. Yes, we can help you. And a lot of times when you say you don't have extensive job history, you were doing something and we can use it. Megan Cedar says people have babies and get sick. Not saying why you have a gap is huge for employment history. Someone says senior accounting clerk, is that a transferable position? I do AR as well as audit. Yes, it is. Accounting. So here's the thing about people that work in accounting. You are so immersed with the numbers and the line items that you forget why you're really there. You are there record keeping, records management, compliance, transparency. Your position is how companies get funded, how they keep their funding, how they keep their stakeholders happy, how they show how money was spent. If a company gets a loan or funding from a bank, and think about the PPP loans, you're integral in making sure that money is appropriated correctly. And so that's more than just accounting, and that experience can be transitioned into a wide range of industries. And it doesn't have to stay in accounting. You are the person who is accountable for everything that company has done financially. And if you can be accountable for what the company has done financially, you can be accountable for other areas. You can go into project management. You can go into payroll administration. You can go into compliance. You can go into budgetary compliance. There are so many avenues. You can transition completely into fintech and go from doing accounting at the organizational level to doing accounting at the transactional level. So there are a lot of opportunities for there. Have you reviewed education industry? I want to say I've done that before. I get a lot of clients who are leaving education. I'm calling it a mass exodus. I talk to someone at least once a week. I get a client. When you say what's the best package for people who don't have extensive job history, how many years of work experience do you have? I often get asked why I switched from clinical pharmaceutical experience to tech payment processor. How do I explain this career pivot? Well, if it was me, I would say going from a clinical pharmaceutical facing position to tech payment processor, it really isn't a switch. It is adding on to an experience that I already had. In the pharmaceutical industry, I am responsible for ensuring that payments come through in order to clear a transaction. It's just payments from payers, insurance companies, co-pays. So it's the same scope, and I'm looking to apply what I've learned in pharmaceuticals to the tech industry. Are internal communication positions still important? Yes, they are. And I would say that I believe it's easier to get them now because data is driving insights. Companies are getting data quicker because it's automated, and they're needing people to take that data and tell stories with it. And those stories are very complex and intricate, and a lot of times those stories have to be broken down at the department level because every department is using the data differently, and so that need is growing. Is it true that you shouldn't put jobs less than 6 months on your resume? If it's a really good resume, does that even matter? This is a case-by-case situation, and it depends on how how the resume flows. So that's a case-by-case thing. All right, guys. Have you helped teachers transition out of the classroom? If so, what positions did they transition to after working with you? Hold on. Let me pull up my list, because I track some of these things. I was actually just looking at this. Give me a second. Here we go. All right, now this list is not inclusive, but this is just a list. I was going over some of the transitions. So we have implementation consultant, we have training facilitator, education consultant, project manager, knowledge manager. Literacy director, program manager, operations manager. And I'm not going to read the whole list, but those are some of them. You're welcome. I've worked with probation officers, correction officers, and parole officers before. In fact, I had a client who was at Rikers. She hated it, the forced overtime. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to get out of here. Because I got some work I need to do. But it was great chatting with you guys. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to send a DM or an email. What's the best package for people who are just starting out with you? Consider the New Year, New Career package. That's a great package. It's going to include a career coaching report, a resume, a cover letter, applications completed on your behalf. That's a great starting point. I'm going to take a break, and then I'll come back and clear some DMs. And then whatever DMs I don't get to, my team will get to, but I will pop in and respond to some of you guys because I'll be anticipating questions rolling over from the live. All right, guys. Bye-bye.